Hey, friend. Thank you so much for your patience as you experienced just alongside of us the thrills, the highs and lows of all things live. And when the system decides to go a little crazy, you just have to roll with the punches. So thanks for being so flexible and rolling right along with us. It's so good to see you. If you're new around these parts, hopefully we have made ourselves known and welcomed to you. We'd love if you said hello in the chat. Let us know where you're coming in from, perhaps what you are choosing for caffeine today. I'm coming in from Austin, Texas with some green tea, but would love to say hi to you. If you are not feeling social today, we get it. That happens. You can sit back and relax and listen to this on whatever speed you want. Or if you're joining in live, you don't have to say hi. You don't have to ask any questions, but we want you to know that you are welcome to. If you have to take off early, or if you have a friend that couldn't be here, bummer. This will be on all your favorite podcast networks, whether that is Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Overcast, next Tuesday, right into your inbox so you can play this, send this, share this, whatever medium is going to make the most sense for you. But big hi to Brendan and Giacomo and Jim and John. And we got Seattle and Louisville. We got all sorts of places checking in and saying hi. It's good to see you guys here today. If you did a little Google stalking before coming here, you know that the person that we're sitting down to coffee with today pretty much needs no introduction, and you've seen her around these parts before. But what I love so much about Madeline is not just the fact that she shares her insider knowledge with us, because there's a lot of people, by the way, that get this insider knowledge and they keep it to themselves, or they put it behind a paywall and make you pay thousands and thousands of dollars for courses and coaching. But no, Madeline is sharing the wealth, not only here on LinkedIn, but also YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and via email. She is just all the time one of those people that is just constantly putting out helpful pieces of advice and tips and tricks and hacks. And I feel like that is just so important and needed in this day and age, where we all need to be like, what's working for you? This is working for me. What's working for you? This is not working for me. And just kind of sharing the playbook, sharing what's actually working. What are you actually seeing out there? And as you know, Madeline has been doing this for years. She's not a new kid on the block. She's been doing this for quite some time, building up her kind of career coaching empire with Self-Made Millennial. And she's reached millions of people with that brand and with her various channels. But what I'm really excited about is she has decided, which I props to anybody who can do this, because I'm still like shocked that people want to put in the efforts. They're like marathons. I'm always shocked when we're like, you want to run 26 miles? Okay, not for me, but for you. Madeline has decided to do the brave thing and write a book, which is just wild to me and really is like running a 26-mile marathon. Because if you've talked to anybody who has put out a book or knows somebody who puts out a book, this is not easy. This is the equivalent of 26 miles of career running. So I'm really excited to talk to her all about how she distilled years worth of knowledge and years worth of trial and error and tips and tricks into one really beautiful package. So without further ado, please raise your cups and help me welcome Madeline to our coffee chat.
Hello, hey. Kim. Thanks so much for the great intro.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I had my Roastorama tea just before this. It's tea that's herbal, but it tastes like coffee because I can't handle caffeine.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Caffeine, you'll have me zooming, bouncing off the walls. I'll be like, whoop. So no, it's not for me.
It's too
not
much.
At all.
It's too much, but I love the taste.
You also must be bouncing off the walls because you have birthed a new child into the world. And I cannot wait to hear about it. But I just want to ask, just sort of like insider knowledge, like, How are you feeling right now? Like, does it feel like you just pushed a baby out? Are you still kind of riding high off the excitement? Like, what are you feeling?
Well, I can't go anywhere. There's paparazzi all outside my house. Everyone wants a piece of it. No, but it felt amazing. Yesterday was when the book came out, and it felt like my birthday. I woke up and I was like, wow, this is a moment. It felt like aging another year. It felt like, because you could piece together all of my advice from my different YouTube videos. You could invest in my coaching, but never has it been so accessible that people can get an A to Z strategy on how to job search. And finally, and one kind of like insider thing between you and me is that there's so many things in here that is in none of my social media, because social media is built to get views and clicks. This is built to get you a job. So it's like, even some of the things that maybe aren't as flashy and headline worthy, but extremely impactful in the job search are in here. So that was an interesting approach where I got to put in all the things that are maybe less sexy, but extremely important in the book.
Well, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because I was actually just talking to a friend the other day, and I was explaining to them kind of like how I view social media. And you, to me, hit the nail on the head, which is I was explaining to her, you can watch and by the way, pick your poison, TikTok, Instagram, whatever short form content you want. And it's all about like, hook people in the first 5 seconds. You can't have anything over, 25 seconds, all that sort of stuff. And to me, like using the analogy of baking an apple pie, you might have one TikTok that's all about how to peel an apple, and then one TikTok about the best way to pack down brown sugar, and then one TikTok about the best way to slow melt your butter. But the problem with that is it's all bite size, and there's really no place that shows you how to bake the entire apple pie. You can like get hacks for a little part of it. And so that's exactly what I was thinking about when I was kind of going through your book, was like, wow, this kind of allows you the space and the forum to be like, let's actually talk about the whole process where I don't have 25 seconds, to grab
Right.
your attention and like shove this down your throat.
Right.
Not as
I
fun.
even make a comment in the networking section of, I never make any content on networking because people swipe away immediately because it makes them uncomfortable. But I say in the book, I say, you're not swiping away. So I'm going to give you the real juice here. Here's what actually needs to happen. Step A, B, C, D. Boom.
Exactly. And I just feel like that type of stuff is, you hit the nail on the head. Sure, people can watch 75 TikToks in a row. But again, going back to the apple pie, it's like, oh, wait, did you melt the butter before you put in the sugar? No, you have to put in the sugar first. So I also just like that this goes chronologically. It really feels like you're holding my hand from like, hey, I'm kind of thinking about getting a new job, or maybe my current job isn't that bad, to you're actively sitting somewhere kind of on the other side of the mountain, happy. And, it feels like I have you in my back pocket for that entire journey.
Oh, well, it means so much to me that you feel that way.
I'm just curious, all over the years, people have talked to you all the time about like, how do I do this? And what do I do? And like, why a book? Was it just that expansive nature? Was it really something that you felt like, I want to be able to kind of hand this playbook off to people? Or do you feel like, times are changing? That's something that I always say too. The rules are different. The playbook is different. Is this something that you really felt like, no, I have to get this all in one place before the rules change again?
Yeah, basically, I don't really want to create something that already exists and that people already have and they don't need me for it. Even when I went out and created my YouTube channel, which was the first thing I created it because I noticed a lot of the advice out there was very regurgitated. It was the same things I heard growing up and even through college. And it was all the things that weren't working. It was from a past era. And then when I looked at the books out there on the job search, a lot of them had bits and pieces. Here's how to get clear on your next career step. Here's how to be great at LinkedIn. But none of it came with an overarching strategy that basically teaches you how to spend less time job searching. That was really my key, is spend less time, and also make it fun. When you're job searching, you are shopping for your future. This should be extremely intentional and also enjoyable. And as crazy as it sounds, my clients tell me that I make this entire process fun, which is definitely not a word that people associate with job searching.
Well, and I'm curious, obviously, when for anybody that's joining us who maybe this is their first time hearing the term, job searching and really or job shopping rather, and they're used to hearing job, searching for a job, searching for a job, but it's really their first time hearing the word job shopper. What do you say to somebody who's like, oh my gosh, well, Madeline is so outgoing and so gregarious and so confident. Of course, she could be a shopper, but I'm maybe more introverted, maybe a little more passive, maybe a little more unsure of myself in this new field. What would you say to somebody like that who's feeling like, I don't know if I have that sort of kind of go-getter, job shopper, job hunter ability?
That's so common, is that people will say, Madeline, I believe that this works, but for that person who already has the experience in that industry. I'm transitioning industries, Madeline, that won't work for me. Or I'm too old, or I'm too young, or whatever it is, they say. And all those things make your job search harder. That is true. I'm not saying that those don't. But what I found is that when you understand how to speak to what a company's specifically looking for, such as too many of us were taught in the job search to focus on what makes us special, what's most interesting about our accomplishments, and share our best accomplishments. No, I throw that out the window. There's an entire chapter in the book that says your resume isn't about you. I want you to get you out of your head. But if you are focusing on the company, solving their unique problems, almost coming in like a consultant that's already hired, the company inherently trusts you so much more. And it's not about the experience you've had in the past. It's you building up this image of what is the future with you. They now see your salary not as an expense, but an investment in what you can do for them in the future. And I'm telling you, Kim, that mindset shift unlocks so many job offers, and almost no one approaches the job search that way.
What do you think stops them from approaching it? Is it just a new kind of way of thinking about it, and that's what holds people back? I mean, obviously you've coached thousands of people and you've kind of seen this reaction over and over. What do you think is the top thing that I guess makes other people just kind of be like, oh, I don't know if I could do that?
So the same things that land you a job offer are the same things that work in marketing and sales. Think of yourself as a product. Now, it's all human psychology, is essentially, if you boil it down. But I've coached so many people who work in marketing and sales, and they are phenomenal at what they do. But when it comes to marketing themselves, selling themselves, they are lost. And the reason is they're sitting in the bottle and they can't read the label. They are too close to their own story to where they don't know what to focus on. Even if I tell them, here's what the company's looking for, they start to get caught in the web of their own experiences. And then the emotion, just the raw emotion of how high stakes a job interview is. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars at stake here of what you're going to earn. And so it's really a matter of getting a strategy that takes you out of your head and you follow it step by step. Even for me, when I was on the job search and I had already been putting out content, I would have to watch and read my own content in the job search to help reorient myself into the right strategies, because it's too foggy when you're in it alone.
It really does help to kind of step back and have a plan and have a strategy to go about looking for it. I got an email, preemptively before our chat today that I want to make sure I keep in mind. And that was for somebody, a young woman who was asking, she's in college, she was asking specifically about internships. So she was like, I get it. A lot of the kind of career driven job shopping stuff is exactly that, for jobs. And she was saying, I'm 19 years old. I'm looking for, I'm a sophomore in college. I'm looking for my first internship. And she was sort of laughing, saying that, you use the phrase a lot, spray and pray, when talking about job searching, which is like you apply to a million jobs and, you hope you get them. And she was kind of laughing because she's like, oh my gosh, like I've been doing spray and pray for my internships. I obviously it's been years since I had to get an internship, but apparently there's a bunch of portals now, and you want to be an intern at Disney or whatever, you kind of apply to these portals, and who knows. Do you find that a lot of your strategies would also work for internships, or do you kind of feel like, listen, that's a different world because you're not able to market yourself in the same way as somebody who has career experience?
So I would say 80% of my strategies would work for someone, who's new into their world. I will say the 20% comes from a lot of my clients say that over 50% of their interviews come inbound, where they haven't even applied to a role. Companies are just pursuing them, saying, hey, interview with us. That's not going to happen if you're entry level. Like, it's just not. Like, you just haven't built up enough experience for companies to start banging down your door, unless you're kind of a unique person who is targeting a role that is very in demand. So that's not. But as far as the other 80%, absolutely, because really a lot of the strategies, again, are human psychology. They're about persuasion. They're about standing out when you are one of 1,000 applications. How do you stand out? How do you get a company to take a chance on you if you don't have a lot of work experience in the past? A lot of these strategies will definitely work for that.
Yeah, I told her, I was like, I will definitely ask that question in today's live. But I also gave her this piece of advice, which I'll offer here as well. I said, at the end of the day, people love to give back to younger folk. I don't know, just like maybe it's like pre-wired into our brains from caveman days or something. And I said, your best bet is to find alumni. So like if you graduated from the University of Michigan, or you graduated from the University of Florida, or you graduated from UCLA, I was like, if you can, and I just picked a company like Disney. I'm like, there are UCLA grads that work at Disney, write to them and say like, oh my gosh, like I'm a current UCLA student. Like there is that sort of fondness with some people, not all people, but especially I feel like alumni networks are one of the sneaky things that people don't think about using, because there are so many tech, platforms and LinkedIn and, job portals and intern portals and stuff. But you also can go a little old school with like good old fashioned alumni connections and reaching out to people on LinkedIn. So I'll add that in too.
I love that, because the number one word to get people to help you. I wonder if any of your viewers know what is the number one word to get people to help you. And that word is student. If you say student, it is so disarming. It's like, oh, like, let me help you. Oh, you're a student. Oh, you're exploring the world. You need help. You probably are buried in loans right now. Let me help you. And so that is such a great piece of advice, Kim.
Yeah, I could not agree more. You're right. There is something disarming about student. Like you're kind of like, all right, you're not going to be hitting me up for anything. So it's like beer money, maybe. Other than that, like you're safe. I want to get to this question from Giacomo. It kind of touches on what you were talking about before, but if you wanted to change your work field and you're really good at networking and you have great contacts and you have a great LinkedIn profile, have a great resume, all that sort of stuff, but you just can't seem to break through that sort of first barrier and can't quite get to the interview stage. What are some of your best tips to overcome that barrier, that sort of changing work field barrier?
Yeah. So unfortunately, if you are getting the introductions and someone is passing along your material and people are actually looking at your materials, you do not have a great LinkedIn and you do not have a great resume / CV. Like, I'm just going to be frank with you right now. I don't know what you're considering great. Maybe great means you have great accomplishments, but right now you are not speaking to exactly what the company is looking for. Maybe that could be you have major skill gaps. Maybe that could be you have too much information on your resume and you have all the right things there, but the company has to piece together the different components of what they're actually looking for. Or maybe your leveling is off. Maybe you're going for roles that are too far below what you're looking for. Those types of things. So that is, I would say, keep rocking the networking, but you really need to figure out, okay, what's the differential here between what the company's looking for and what's appearing on my LinkedIn resume.
I love that. And speaking of, barriers or kind of getting over that first hump, I wanted to bring up, I don't know if you saw it, but somebody had written a comment on this post that we did kind of promoting this live. And they were like, please, I don't know if I'm able to join live with the time change, but I'm international. And that could be international coming from the US, going to Europe, or Europe back to the US, or whatever, trying to find a job internationally. And it was basically saying, how would one even overcome? There's so many other barriers about visas and qualifications. Have you worked? I know most of your stuff is based here in the United States, but have you worked with any groups or any people that you've coached over the years who have wanted to get positions internationally?
Yes, I've worked with a lot of people internationally, exactly, going in all different directions.
Right.
And one of the key things is there's a strategy I talk about called the underdog approach. So basically, whatever makes you an underdog, I want you to lean into that in the job search. So let's say you are looking to get a job in another country. You lean into that, as there's a few ways to do that. First of all, try to find people at the companies you're interested in who also see, like, you can tell from their work history, like on LinkedIn, it says the locations where they've worked before. See if it's someone who's moved countries. It doesn't necessarily have to be from the same country you left, but that's even better. You can even search by language too on LinkedIn, of what languages people speak and at which companies, and you can find people that way if you speak a different language. And so that's one way of build these relationships, and it's actually easier to get those people to respond to your messages because they relate to you, they feel for you. The second thing is, if you're going to a different country or a different city or anything like that, one of the best things you can do is go visit that place for a time-bound amount of time. So let's say you're going to be there for a week and a half. Somehow, magically, you are able to get so many more meetings on the calendar with hiring managers who may not be hiring for exactly the role you're going for right now, but you can just meet them and all that kind of stuff. You can just reach out to a bunch of different people at different companies, say, hey, I'm moving to your city, like in the next 4 months. I'm looking to, meet great professionals. We both do the same thing. Would you be open to grabbing coffee? And it's so wild how if you say, I'm just going to be here for 5 days, how many people say, yes, let's do it. Let's make time. And so those are your first two strategies that can really get your foot in the door.
I love that. And also, again, I would just say, as much as possible, going back to kind of the word student, the more that you can seem like you're trying to learn and be curious, and you're being less, kind of like looking for a boyfriend. Like, I was always convinced that the boys could smell my friends who wanted a boyfriend. And it was always the friends that were like, I'm just going to be single and like hot girl summer. And like, then all the boys flocked to them. It's like they could smell, I don't know, the desperation maybe, or smell that. And I think that, I don't know, I feel like that sometimes can also be true in like the job shopping process as well. Do you find that?
People are looking for authenticity. They're looking for, if you're bringing in this energy of curiosity, use that word, which I think is the perfect word to say. A lot of people think they have to come in and sell themselves. Well, did you hear about this great accomplishment I have and this thing and this thing? And I think at a certain degree, it is good to talk yourself up. Like, don't talk yourself down. But
Right.
to view the conversation as this is my moment to sell myself is completely opposite. When I talk about the job shopping strategies, a lot of them put it on the other person to talk more. And crazily enough, if you're asking the right questions, someone is going to like you more and view you as more competent if they are speaking more and answering your good questions, your curious questions, than if you're sitting there trying to sell yourself as much as possible.
Yeah, I've read that before. Like, I think it was like Malcolm Gladwell had a book at one point, and he was basically saying that they ran a science experiment, and it was exactly that. Like, do you like this person? And they found that when that person talked less, the person liked them more, and you're kind of like, wait, what? And it basically, the social science was like people love hearing themselves talk, and that was probably the impetus of it. But I'm glad that we're kind of talking about like how you would talk about yourself and how much to talk versus not talk in an interview, because we have a juicy question, which consists of, if you have been fired or maybe left a job that is on your resume on maybe not the best of terms, do you kind of take the role of silence, like going back to like just kind of talking less and maybe avoiding that subject? Do you talk more? Do you address maybe the kind of way in which you left or the situation that had occurred? What have you found is the best strategy for handling kind of some holes or some tough areas on your resume?
This is such a good question because it actually speaks to a larger theme that I think is going to help so many people. And when I help people, this is actually one of the major things. I constantly am coaching clients on how to answer, why did you leave your last job? And I want to make sure everyone knows that, because everyone feels like their situation is unsavory or they might feel embarrassed about it or whatnot. But I'm telling you, I have a career path that, involved termination. So many people do. So anyways, you're actually normal if you have something that's like kind of weird about your career path. Weird is normal. So what I will say is that we say too much. We say way too much. We feel like we have to explain everything. So in the government, and then they had these budget cuts, and then this team, blah blah blah. No, stop. Just say, yeah, I was laid off. Unfortunately, budgets were cut. And my team was impacted. And I was one of the people who was laid off, right? Because this says non-disciplinary reasons. And so that means that you didn't necessarily, steal money from, the government or anything like that, right? You just, something happened and you lost your job, which, by the way, so many people right now in the government are losing their jobs. So also, again, you're fitting in with so many people. So what I would say is just make it as short as possible, but don't make it too vague to where there should be any follow-up questions. That's your goal. Try to say it in 1, maybe 2 sentences and 0 follow-up questions. I was unfortunately laid off due to budget cuts. Boom, done, move on.
Do you suggest something short and sweet like that as well? I have to ask this question for my moms out there, not to sound sexist, but I just find it's more of my girlfriends than my guy friends who maybe took a year off, 2 years off. Oh, I'm going to take 3 or 4 years off until my kids get into school. And now they're re-entering the workforce. And the last thing on the resume was, 4 years ago. What is it, that same sort of short and sweet, hey, I was raising my kids and now I'm back? Or don't offer that much detail?
Yeah, I think again, that's a very understandable, clear reason. And you can even write that on your resume. People go a little bit overboard they'll write, mommy break, and they'll like put bullets, like took my kids to school, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. Just say, like, just put like a little small line that says that. Now, what I will say is, if it's been, say, in your example, it was 4 years, I do think that you should start working again project-wise as you're job searching. So what would that look like? So let's say you are looking to get back into your digital marketing career. I would either start having some pet projects of, you think of some dream companies you want to work for, and you just create a portfolio of emails you would write on their behalf, or a campaign you came up with. So it could be made up. Or you have friends who have small businesses. Maybe you reach out to, me or Kim or something like, hey, I saw you do this weekly show. Like, I would like to do a little, digital marketing project to help you promote this show, whatever it is. And I want to get that on your resume so that the companies can see okay, she was out of work, but she's she's greased up the engine. She's raring to go, and her skills are current, because the thing is, with how fast the world moves today, depending on your profession, a lot of things move very quickly. If you did digital marketing 4 years ago, guess what? Things have changed. So you better show that you're up to date.
100%. And I know we want to, try to just be short, sweet, crisp, keep the poignant questions on our interviewer. But I also want to touch on this amazing question, which is, if you have a situation where you either want to redirect the conversation to maybe highlight something that you're really proud of, or, conversely, maybe redirect the conversation going back to your earlier point of like, okay, I know I'm going to get, diarrhea of the mouth if they start asking me about why I left my old job. So let me kind of re-navigate them over to this other subject. What are one or two phrases that you coach people to use in an interview that will help kind of steer the conversation in a direction that you want to go in?
So there's a couple things you can do. First, you can finish answering a question with a question. So if they ask you, why should we hire you? And you answer, and then you finish with, did I miss anything in that answer? As far as my understanding of the role, and is that how you would see me fit in? Or, did I get that right about how this role works? And then they can start answering. Or it could be something like, you can finish your interview answers essentially on a different topic. So one of the things I do, on the front page of my website, you can download tell me about yourself responses, like a worksheet to answer tell me about yourself. And the third piece of that answer is actually answering a different question. And no one ever tells me, oh, wait, this threw my interviewer off. That was answering a different question. No, actually, what happens is I kind of craft a tell me about yourself answer. And then the final part of that answer is, and why this role is the best next step. So you're essentially answering the question, why do you want to work here? And why do I have people put that in their tell me about yourself answer? Well, because that is actually one of the key things that a company needs to know in order to say yes to you. And we can't wait for them to ask you that question. So I want you to volunteer that information so that they see, wow, Madeline's really interested in this opportunity. She's actually thought about how she's going to contribute and why this would be a great fit. I'm really sold on her. So that's another way, is you can just kind of merge whatever question they're asking you, you can merge your answer into the direction that you need to go in order to make sure they are sold on you.
Yeah, I love that, because at the end of the day, what really, you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier, which is, it's less about whatever your GPA or your resume or your test scores or your certifications or where you got your MBA. And it's all about basically like, does this person like me, and do they think that I'm competent? I mean, really, it doesn't matter what MBA school you went to, or you were first in your class at whatever business school. If the person doesn't think you're competent and or doesn't like you, dead in the water. Like you're not going anywhere.
Those are the two things. You need those two things. And then the third thing is you just need to have the right timing. That's the way you need to show up. If the timing's right and those two things are right, boom, you're done. So if you can get that timing right with those two things, that's the true trifecta.
1,000%. I have to make a confession. When I got the book and was starting to read it, I did not read it front to back. I sort of started in the back half because I went straight into your chapter. I think it was like one of the later ones, on negotiating.
Yes.
Because even after owning my own business for 14 years, I still get the heebie-jeebies when it comes to negotiating. And, that has not ceased. Even if you don't work in corporate, I think just negotiating anything, especially like, I don't know, I'm a people pleaser. I just want everyone to be happy. I'm like, oh, I hate the hard conversations. My husband's much better at it than I am. Okay. You talk about negotiation being a partnership, which I have to say, when I read that sentence, I was like, she's on crack. This is whack. No way does it feel like a partnership. It feels like I'm going to barf. So have to know, like, was that something that you really honed, your thought process over the years? Or were at some point were you like me where the thought of negotiation made you want to puke?
Oh, absolutely. Negotiation for a very long time made me extremely uncomfortable. But what
Yeah.
was kind of magical was that I got to be on the employer side of thousands of
Mhm.
negotiations. So it was like I was representing the employer. So I was not like I was fighting for my own self, for my own salary. I was kind of in a little bit more of a less emotional position to be in. And so it is interesting. And one of the studies I quote in the book is that they studied pairs of people negotiating, I believe, salaries. And they took away all the words that were said and only measured the rapport building that happened between the two people. And the the amount and quality of the rapport building matched directly to the amount of money the person ultimately got. So basically, what does this all mean? Is if you're building the rapport, if you're being likable, if you're viewing it as a partnership, not as a tennis match, but as a chance to row a canoe together, you are going to get more money.
Do you also find that it's important to figure out what the other person thinks is a win? Because I think, at least for me, my head natural, and a lot of my friends who I talk to, like our minds naturally go towards money, like money, 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 like it's too expensive or it's too cheap or whatever. And sometimes, not all the times, there are other factors at play. Like, again, when I'm thinking of like a job, it could be, again, working remotely. It could be vacation days. It could be the ability to travel. I have a friend who's a very heavy sales based job. And one of the requirements is like, are you okay being away from your family for 2 weeks every month? That was like a big deal to the company because they had really great people. But after 6 months, they were like, actually, I don't want to be away from my family anymore. And the company would kind of be stuck. So how much advice do you give people to look at like the money versus the extras, as I will refer to them?
Yeah, you see a lot of these posts go viral of people saying, "Oh, you want to treat your employees better? Pay them more.
Right.
We don't want perks, we just want pay." And people will say, "Yes, yes, yes." And that is true. That's true. People do want to be paid well, of course. But time and time again, from all the people I've hired, all the people I've coached, money is typically not the top priority. So many people will take a job that pays less. I know for me, I've done that in my career too, um, because that opportunity gives them that flexibility or gives them those growth opportunities or allows them to work with the right manager or allows them to work in that great location or whatever it is. And so it's easy to kind of think that you're keeping up with the Joneses to get the right title or the right salary that matches your friend who's also very successful. But in the end, like I've rejected some job offers from some very prominent companies that everyone would recognize for a non-recognizable company on my resume. But I was so happy in those opportunities. I had 3 dream jobs in a row where I was excited on Monday mornings, and I'm not even being, you know, ridiculous about that. It's true. Yet my friends who did take those offers at those companies, I'm not saying all big companies are bad, but they selected it due to a reason of the way it appeared to others, not how the reality of how they were going to be spending 40, 50, 60 hours a week.
It's something that I don't think people think about enough. I think people kind of skip right to the like either money or what title. Oh, I can get a soapbox how over I am about these titles. Have you seen some of the corporate titles these days? They make no sense. I don't know what that is. Like I look at it and I'm like, you're the senior director of what? What
Right,
division is
right.
that? I don't even know what that is.
I know.
But
I know it's
it's
goofy. Yeah, I've taken at this job where I took an offer that was $30,000 less than the other offer I got. It was several titles lower than the other offer I got, and it was a lower title than the opportunity I had before. But I was extremely happy. I rode my bike to work every day, 15 minutes from my home. Like stuff like that where I was just so happy and it was the perfect transition in my career. So you really, really have to know yourself and take time to understand what you want next, because life is too short.
No, 1,000%. I know this is going to be the hardest question you will get today, which is you give tons of anecdotes and pieces of advice and tactics and templates for people to use in your new book. But if you had to pick one, I know it's like picking a favorite child because so many of them are good, but if you had to pick one that was your kind of absolute favorite, or maybe one that you think will resonate with people the most, which one would you pick?
Well, going off of what we were just talking about, because this is the foundation of your job search, is I talk about how to select your next job opportunity. Because if you do that part wrong, you've blown the whole thing. Okay. If you're
True.
not focused, or if you don't actually, your heart isn't in it because you don't actually want the job you want, forget the rest of the book. Throw it out. Doesn't matter. So, one of the pieces I talk about in the book, just to kick us off, is the wealth formula. And it's 3 components.
Yes.
The first is, when you're looking for your next job, look at your strengths. What are the things you're really good at? And not just the things that you're good at, but what are you good at that other people dread? That is where the fun is, because when you build your strengths, you build mastery, which is fun. You get into your flow state, which is fun. And you make great money because you're really good at it. You get promoted quickly. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, look at your values. Okay. We just talked about some of my values. When I said at that period of my life, it wasn't about making the biggest money, which is a value. Maybe that's what you value in this moment, which is completely valid. But I valued getting outside, having an easy commute, learning new things in a new profession, those types of things. So think about what you actually value. Getting home by 5 p.m. to have dinner with your loved ones, whatever you value. And then the third piece is market demand. Unfortunately, Kim, we cannot. If you complain that your career path doesn't pay you enough, that is on you. You chose your career path. So you need to, before you go into your next job, do that research. How are the roles increasing or decreasing in demand year over year? I don't want you going into a career that's dying. Second of all, how much you're going to get paid now at this point in your career, and how much you're going to get paid at each step of the way. Because if you're just looking at the top salary of when you have made it, and that's what you're going for, okay, are you willing to get 10, 20 years of nothing pay to get that? I don't know. So taking those components and then really making sure you're making a very wholehearted decision about what is next.
1,000%. I love this highlight. I love doing something that everybody else hates. Got to figure out those strengths. It's so true, because there is something that you might desperately be good at that if that company is not good at or hates or people don't want to do, you're their solution. You're their knight in shining armor.
Exactly. I give an example in the book of my employee, Courtney, and she was telling her friend at lunch what she does for a living. And her friend goes, "You talk to people all day and help them, decide if they need coaching. And then you respond to all their questions and all that." They say, "That sounds like the worst job ever. That sounds so exhausting." And meanwhile, Courtney, it's like, it gives her energy. She loves talking to people. She loves helping people. And so just remember, like, if there's something that you do that your friends are like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds exhausting. I could never talk to people all day." Bingo, you can probably make some good money doing it.
1,000%. Oh, I love it. Okay, Madeline, as you know, we're super nerdy around these parts. If you could give everybody a homework assignment for the rest of this week, going into this weekend, could be to watch something, could be to do something. I will tell people that I think they should absolutely buy this book, not only for themselves, but for a friend of a friend, for a coworker. But what do you think is something that somebody watching this or listening to this should try or do that will help them sort of elevate themselves and become that job shopper instead of that job seeker?
I would say possibly, even because I realize this is connecting with your audience. Let's figure out what those strengths are. right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's asking former coworkers or current coworkers, what do you see as my strengths? And it's going to be wild how quickly they come up with them. There's also different strengths assessments that you can take out there, and so that can also be helpful. And then really track those into employable skills. So with a lot of these strength assessments, they'll say things like, you're a great learner. It's like, okay, what do I do with that? How is that employable? Is it because you stay up to date with all of the new innovations on tech and then that you're able to implement into your job? Okay, great. That is employable. So I would say that's your job right now, is understand what are your strengths. And I want you to transform that into not just, oh, what do I love about myself? Because remember, that's not what this book is about. It's not about what you love about yourself. It's about how does that benefit the organization? And when you can get in the mind of the employer, that's when magic happens.
And I will add one little last piece of juice on this, which is sort of what I want to highlight again, what you were talking about earlier about, not being able to read the label if you're in the jar because you're just too close to it. It reminded me, as you were talking about finding your strengths, something that I did probably 4 or 5 years ago is I used, I don't know, Google surveys or something. It was free, or Survey Monkey. And I made a little 3-question survey that was totally anonymous. And I sent it to not only some of my, closest friends, but work colleagues, old acquaintances that I had worked with, current work clients that I was working with. And I just asked like 3 or 4 questions, like, what do you think my biggest strengths are? What do you think I'm good at that nobody else realizes? Like, what do you think I'm good at that I don't realize, et cetera?
Mm-hmm.
And because I made it anonymous, I feel like I got the real talk. Because sometimes when you take people to coffee, and by the way, I will do this too, like, I will not tell you the whole truth because maybe like I don't want to mention it, or maybe I think that you might be insulted by it or whatever. But there is a beauty in anonymous surveys where I don't have to put in my email address, or I don't have to put in my name, that I just feel like those fingers get to type in. And I don't know, I just like let loose a lot more than if I know that person knows what I typed.
Yes. Ooh, that is so good. I love that. To get that feedback is priceless. And you do have to brace for it, because they could give some critical things. And remember, feedback is a gift.
1,000%. But I also learned a lot. Like, I was like, oh, I didn't think anybody cared about that. But like a bunch of people filled it out that like they thought that I was really good at it. So it was an interesting little science experiment. So thank you so much. I'm so excited that you could be here with us. I'm so excited that you shared this baby, this paparazzi loving baby with us today. So fun. I hope everybody heads over to Madeline's website. By the way, you have like a million cool freebies and stuff on the website and helpful
including
templates.
A strength assessment. When you get the book, you can also get a free strength assessment. So
huge. So thank you so much for being here with us. We really appreciate it.
Yes, it's been my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, and thank you everybody for joining us today. Hopefully we packed a punch with lots of tips and tricks for you to use as you go out into the world and become a job shopper and really find that next role or opportunity that you are excited about and wake up every day charged up and ready to dive into. So thank you so much. We're here every week. Every single Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can always head over to getcoffeewithkim.com and we'll send you like a little calendar invite. That is very fun. Or we're on your favorite podcast app. So thank you so much for taking the time, and we'll catch you next week.